Hello and welcome to On the Esky. Today you've got James Webster, the Monks, and Anthony Pizzulo, the Peps, with myself, Sean Gould. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things today. Start off with the AFL, then we'll go through what's happening in this week as well in the NRL, the start of the NFL season. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. The Formula One, cricket, mixed martial arts, the boxing, what's happening there, and a little bit of chat about the US Open. So I think we're going to kick off and start with the AFL. I think the kind of big thing probably to start with was how the Lions are travelling, because after last week they lose Harris Andrews to hamstring for what looks like could be up to 6 weeks. Which may mean he misses most of their finals, and hopefully they go deep enough that he can come back.
I think, best case he's back for the prelim.
And then on Wednesday they had a whole bunch of more Russia injuries that came along, though they pumped the Gold Coast, though they struggled a little bit on their goal kicking again.
The story of the season.
Yeah. Do you see Cam Rayner?
No. Sorry, he kicked 3, didn't he?
He took kick 3 and he was going to kick 4, took a Mark 12 out. Took like 2 steps back. So there was, this is nice and open. Turns around, tries just a quick slap, behind.
Reminds me a lot of my own goal kicking playing Aussie rules footy. Have you got any information on Jared Berry? I saw he sustained a shoulder injury.
So my understanding is it's his same shoulder he had surgery on, I don't think it was last year, but the year before. So it's a shoulder he's had injuries on before. They're not sure whether it was just a straight dislocation, popped out, popped in. I think the words they were using is it's popped. So whether that's, that could be anything from AC sprains to maybe just like I say, dislocation, pop in, pop out, and he'd be right. But as long as he avoids surgery is probably the main thing, and maybe a week's worth of rest, save him up for the finals, is what he needs. But I think he was meant to have scans yesterday. But I don't think anyone's kind of reported on any of those results yet, or whether they're getting maybe second opinions on it. So
right.
Hard to say. I think they lost someone else. They had that. I think he was one of the younger blokes that had went up for a big mark and got his legs taken out from underneath and landed on his head, concussion. So he's looking in doubt, and. Was it Jared Lyon, I think, as well, had a big cork. I think he played on, but he still has some issues. But there's a few injuries there that popped up after Harris. So for a team that's trying to make a run at the finals, they're either going to hopefully not struggle, but there'll be some opportunities for some young boys. Jared's younger brother, TJ, might get an opportunity there too, get a run around. I think maybe Fagan has a look at some of those other boys, bring them in for the last few games before they get into the finals, knowing that, I think the top 5's pretty set after what we looked at last week. I think that's pretty set. It's just
I'd agree with that.
What position you want to be in come finals time, and maybe play some of those younger boys, see how they go, see if they can fit in the case of, if they're going to play big minutes in the finals coming up.
Do you think Brisbane can top Port Adelaide to become minor premiers?
They're equal on points. It's percentage. Port's ahead by about 9 percentage points. The next few weeks remaining of the season, Brisbane plays Sydney.
Yeah, what's their run home like?
You'd think they win that. Port plays Essendon. You'd think they win that. And then going ahead the week after, Port plays Collingwood in Brisbane. That'll be an interesting game. And Brisbane plays Carlton. So based on that, they're both games that are winnable for both sides. And Port has the better percentage. But I suppose if either of those teams lose one of those games, then the other you'd think would be the minor premier.
Definitely. Yep. So looking at some of the others there as well, the West Coast lost the Bulldogs by 2 points. So kind of means their hopes of making the top 4 are out. And
Who, West Coast?
I believe so. Looking
No,
at that.
I think they're sitting in fourth at the moment on 44. Richmond on with a game in hand behind them at 42.
This game that's currently playing,
Yeah, so it'll
Richmond vs Geelong.
come down, I suppose, to tonight's result. My personal opinion is that Geelong wins this game against Richmond. They've been playing some pretty good footy recently. They're big guys. Danger, Tomahawk.
They're both big squads.
Yeah, they're looking good. So I think that top 5 is set. So obviously, whoever finishes fourth gets that second chance. It'll be interesting if it is West Coast, Richmond, or Geelong. And something that also opened up this week was GWS losing to Adelaide. Sort of opens up that 8th position. With the Bulldogs, D's and Carlton sort of all there or thereabouts.
But they're 2 games back. So.
Very true.
Yeah,
Hard to make up, but doable.
GWS plays Melbourne this week, so the winner of that game really, takes pole position in grabbing that 8th spot. And I think Phil Davis is done for the year as well. So key forward if it's Frisch or, whoever goes forward for Melbourne, really has a good opportunity.
But the premiers very rarely come from outside the top 4. So, but even though those top 5, you can probably put a blanket over them at the moment.
Well, the Bulldogs in 17 when they won, I think they come from 7th. But you are right, very very unusual for them to come outside of the top 4. Should we have a look at the NRL there, Sean?
I was just checking. Before we jump into the NRL, I was just having a quick look at what else is going on this week in the AFL. So, besides the Geelong-Richmond game that's going on at the moment,
in which Richmond leads 17-3 at the quarter.
Yep. We've got North playing Dockers.
Nothing game.
Yeah, nothing game. Who cares? Port Adelaide got to Essendon, so
somewhat important for both sides. You'd say Essendon are done, but Port would want to win.
As you were saying before, Giants versus Melbourne. So
that's the biggest game.
Big game.
Biggest game of the round.
Well, I would have thought you said the Crows versus the Blues would have been the biggest game this week.
2 loser teams. The Crows have come back. They're 2 wins against 2 sides that you wouldn't have thought they would have beaten. In Hawthorn and GWS. I hope Carlton wins. I believe they play Brisbane next week anyway, so you'd think there's no chance for the Blues.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about Brisbane? I think they played Saturday, played Wednesday, play Sunday.
It's very difficult this year, isn't it, with the corona rules and people, the teams are really having to play every 4 or 5 days. It's very difficult. AFL is so taxing. Cardiovascularly and in terms of muscle recovery, it's very impressive that they've been able to play. Well, nearly twice a week.
Well, maybe that's it's catching up to the Lions as an example. The injuries start, but then again, looking at some of those injuries, a bit freak injuries. Maybe Harris Andrews one hamstring. That's definitely that could just be miles and meters in his legs cause that. But so Jared's with the shoulder, that's kind of freak injury. Concussion, knockout. Can kind of a freak injury, just landed on it wrong. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how, in the next couple of weeks going into the finals, how the teams pull up with injuries with the boys.
There's no week off this year, is there?
No.
In years past.
Well, I was just looking. So the Monday game is the Pies versus the Suns too. So I think Pies would look to win that to maintain the 7th position going into leading up to the finals. So, just to finish up on the AFL, just looking at it, as we were saying, there's those 5. Who do you think are firming up to be the favourites for the premiership?
It's really quite open. I've liked the way Geelong's been playing, other than the first quarter tonight. I think they've looked really good. There's big questions, I think, around Brisbane and Port's experience. You got to think, though, final in Brisbane, that gives them a massive advantage.
As we talked last week, like, I think that's probably what they'd be pushing for as well. Can we pull that off? Can we, as a Lions, can we actually get there and win possibly the only final ever in Brisbane as the club? Because, it's very rare for, well, maybe not so much in the AFL, but it's very rare for, like, in a sport, you then get a home final at your home ground.
Correct, yeah. It doesn't happen in the AFL outside of Melbourne. And
outside the Melbourne teams, definitely.
In Sydney, in the rugby league outside of Sydney, I should say.
If we go back to your points on, Lions being a young team, even to lose some of their, like, young veterans, that could very push them into that kind of position where maybe we're going to struggle, or maybe, you run up against Richmond or the Geelong, which have the very senior veterans, the old heads, the big names that you talk about. When they run to that side, you've got some younger guys filling in those positions, then you're in trouble. Or, as we said last week, when the Lions games against both those clubs this year, they started off very well, but then kind of faded once those big names did take over those games. So that's what if you're Fagan, that's what you'd be worried about when you come in the finals times. Do I have my senior players in the positions they need to be coming into it, and will they lift? Which I think was very much what they tried to push against the Suns, especially with Andrews out. They had a debutant in there replacing him. He's got to do his job and then try to lift to the replay. You're not going to replace Andrews, but try to fit into that role. But then everyone else in that back three, back four, there to help support him as part of that process, and work harder for your mate to cover up for the fact that we've got losses. That next man up mentality. But it comes, how far down that pole do you go before we're out of the next man up? How can we keep going? So it'd be interesting. Like, the one plus for the Lions is, they had the team that won the NEFL last year underneath them, so they've got a good young squad of good guys there that could possibly fit in. But again, not guys that have professional enough game time on them. But
they've been very strong on the NEFL the last few years.
Yeah, so they've got talent there. It's just
can they do it
funneling that talent
on the big stage?
Exactly.
Have a talk about rugby league.
Can do. So Raiders versus Roosters on the weekend.
It's a good game. I don't think the scoreline really reflected.
It's very physical.
Yeah, how close the game was. The Roosters obviously come in victorious 18-6. A bit of an injury scare at the time with Papali going down, clenching at his shoulder. It looked like he might have done an AC at the time.
Didn't play the last 20, I think.
Yeah, I think he sat out.
Not after half time. Yeah.
He sat out from the injury. From what I've heard during the week, he seems like he's been cleared. He's good to go. I think he's named this week against the Dragons.
Very much so.
Do you think the Raiders, honest opinion, do you think the Raiders could win the premiership this year?
I think they showed very well in that Roosters game that, their defence is there. They competed a lot, tried to kept it close, and part of that process. You were there, James, so you probably understand kind of that that feeling in the crowd that very much, I think they were supportive. They had that defensive aspect.
Yeah, there was definitely moments in the game where the crowd got behind them, and they just were really strong in defence. Didn't really let give the Roosters too much. They seemed to cover Tedesco fairly well, except for the try right at the start. It'd be interesting to see how they go through to the rest of the season and make it all the way. Yeah.
So I think, we've just talked all about the defence. So it's probably the other side of it, which is where they've lacked a little bit, is their attack and how to do that. I think Jack's been, their best player, of course, this year.
He's been really good.
But, if you can limit him like what the Roosters did and try to take away his running game a little bit, then what's the Raiders' other options? They don't really have enough kind of flair or attacking power out of the back five to be able to score points like I will from anywhere in the park. They've got to go work their way into it. Georgie Williams is pretty good supporting them.
Good.
His kick game's been unreal.
Consistent.
I think it's just the try assist side of it. Can he manufacture more points so they can compete and follow along? Because I think the issue against the Roosters is what's the Roosters winger's name? The big fella.
Tupu.
Yeah. bit of a cheat code, kick the ball up high and jump over everyone.
That try he scored was nice.
Nice, such a clean take, put down it. I think, who did he jump over? Was it
Kotrick?
Yeah, it was Kotrick. Yeah, it was Kotrick on the wing. Good old Nick. Just couldn't get up high enough and just straight over the top of him. Which then put him in front, and then they kind of maintained that throughout the rest of the game. So it just makes it hard when you don't really have that extra little thing coming out of the back that you can rely on. Like kind of the Roosters last year in the grand final did with Latrell, basically to seal the game, is just get him a little bit of room, a little bit of space, did his thing, and away they go, score a try, win the game. So I think the one thing the Raiders kind of lack, it's probably on Jack's shoulders, but it's a bit harder being the 6. You're in a bit closer, and there's a lot more guys there to tackle you than if you're out on the wing or out in the centres. So can they do it? Yeah, I think they can definitely make a run at it, but it's going to be a challenge. Penrith have been playing pretty good, though at the moment when they're playing the Eels, it's 0-0. So it's
20 minutes in.
Same thing. It'd be interesting how far the Penrith go to, considering the game last week with Brisbane. They didn't really hit
a little lackluster. They still won that game by 13 points.
They did, but in the end, and they had a way better second half than they did first. But same thing. How far can they go? And I think I've said it before. The team looks like they're built to choke. They'll roll into finals, and then they'll just have a shocker, and then that'll be it. They'll be out. Is
it another Roosters Storm final?
Could be. I'm not sure Storm can do it with the current squad. I think they've got most of their guys back from injury. I can't remember if Munster's still hurt or not. But if they've got Cameron on the side, they're always going to compete.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Bellamy coaching.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be close every year. Souths versus the Tigers last night. Getting the win over the Tigers. But
close finish.
Yeah, close finish, but a bit eventful with some of the action that happened there. A bit of niggle.
Little scuffle between Gagai and Brooks.
Yeah. Good. Love a good ball toss.
There's nothing more infuriating. Seriously. Like, you'd rather someone, give you a little niggle with the knuckles than throw the ball at you. It's so infuriating.
Are they still allowed to do the head rub, or have they stamped that out a bit?
Who knows? You can't throw punches is what I believe is the rule. So.
Well, but after you make a mistake and the guys come along and they give you a little head rub on the head.
I think
that was a big thing a year ago, and I can't remember if they were like, it's unsportsmanlike, and they tried to rule it out.
It is unsportsmanlike, but I don't think it's against the rules.
Yeah, it's not against the rules, but there was definitely a lot of feeling in that game. You could see it. Tigers, I think, really wanted to win, and
I think Benji was playing for a contract possibly next year
at a different club, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think the Tigers want him.
It really seems like he's on the out, doesn't it? Which is so strange after he's given so much to that club.
And then they've got Parker and Reynolds. Reynolds? Yeah, Reynolds on the bench. Injured at the moment, and the big story, they left at half time because that is like, we don't have to hang around. There's no policy for us to be here, so they buggered off, and there's pissed off some of the old boys.
Well, what do you think about that? Because personally, it's rude and it's disrespectful. If you guys, you're on a professional sports team, how hard is it to watch the second half from the stands? And
considering between the two of them, they're getting paid in total like $1.6 million.
And considering they came back and won that game.
Oh, definitely. I use the comparison of Paddy Mills. Like, he's the best towel waver there was out there. But that's the thing, get hyped for your teammates, get loud on the sideline so they can hear you. Especially when there's no crowds there. The only ones cheering for them are your blokes. So, supporting your teammates, even if it's like the little things, I don't think they could get much on the field in this. They kind of sit in the grandstands, but bloke comes off, it's just to lean your head over the fence and give him some pointers, like help him out. Instead of, going to get a pizza after the game and go put a few bets on and slap down on the table, maybe.
Definitely a huge motivating factor as well. Just watching a teammate leave at half time. What does that say about?
They don't want to be there.
Yeah. And what does that make you feel about your own performance and how you're on the field? And
And these guys are meant to be part of this club next year, so
It's a shit thing to do, I think.
yeah. Well, they're looking like they're moving Benji on. They're having the discussion about, is Brooks, the franchise halfback? Is he the future for us at that position, or are we going to move him on? That's probably kind of what it went into his, what would you call it, brain snap. A bit of pressure. He's trying to show he's fiery. He can be the leader in that. Maybe the wrong way to show it, throwing punches, but some of the boys would probably respect that and be like,
appreciate a little bit of fire.
Exactly. Maybe if it wasn't him getting hit in the ball and it was someone else and he's come in and he's protecting the mate kind of thing, you get a bit more respect out of it. But even still, he's showing the fire, he's showing the passion. He wants to be there. Gave Gaga a nice shiner, I've heard. So get one off, it's all good.
Monks, can you have a quick Google there? Try assists 2020 season. I think Benji's second.
He's up there.
I'm pretty sure it's Sean Johnson and is 1 and Benji's 2.
I think that was the result last week or the week before. That's the story. Whether that's still the case after a couple of weeks of football, but it's
very strange that they'd want to get rid of someone that's playing that well. He's 35 years old.
I think it's age. It's one of those things. We want to get a younger in there, start trying to skill him up, rebuild, reload, whatever you want to call it. Try and build that team back up.
So for try assists, we've got Sean Johnson on 20. Benji Marshall is on 15. We've Jerome Luau for the Panthers at 15 and Daly Cherry Evans at 15 as well.
Yeah, right. So 3-2 there. What about Sean Johnson? He's having a year.
Big year.
Yeah.
I think carrying that squad at the moment. So.
Yeah.
So just to finish up on the West talk, there's also from this Penrith game as well, Jason Tamo. There's
James,
sorry. Thank you. I think the West are trying to sign him. They're getting pretty close, or have signed him. They're getting really close to signing that deal. So he's going to move from Penrith across to West next season.
That's big because he's, I think he's Panthers captain or co-captain this year. And former Origin player. Be a good signing for him.
So, yeah, I agree. I think he's been one of the form forwards of the season so far. Definitely been up there.
What's everyone's pick for the grand final? I'll say Penrith just miss out, and I'll go Roosters Storm again. Not that I want to see that, but I think that's what.
You got the draw there, Mungie.
Yep.
What's the 8 at the moment?
So the 8 we've got Panthers, Storm, Eels, and Roosters are top 4. Then we've got Rabbitohs, Raiders, Knights, and Sharks.
So what are Penrith and the Eels on at the moment?
So Penrith's on 31 points, Eels on 26.
Oh, yeah, Penrith well clear.
Yep. Storm's on 28. After the Eels, the Roosters are on 24. Rabbitohs and Raiders on 22, but Rabbitohs are a game ahead. Knights are down at 21 points and the Sharks are at 18.
How many rounds are left?
3, I think, including this weekend.
Yeah, so I think Penrith are probably sewn it up. They'll go very close.
You'd think so, yeah. They're 3 points ahead of second.
So Penrith's got Cowboys next week.
Win. Parramatta
Bulldogs
right now and Bulldogs. They win 2 of those games.
Yeah.
Parramatta, I think, lost their way a little bit the last couple of weeks, they've been so far in this game. It's 0-0, and they've been playing well. They're on the attack, got the ball, forcing Penrith into errors.
Defensive struggle.
Yeah,
0-0, 30 minutes in.
So that could be a surprise team, but again, I'm not sure where they're.
Para's pretenders for me.
Yeah, they did all right without Moses earlier in the season, but again, I'm not sure. The King is probably the only thing they've really keeping them going. So, I'm not so sure about them.
If Para wins a premiership this year, I will eat my own hat.
What sort of hat? A sombrero?
No, this one. It's a New York Yankees hat. It's quite new. It's quite a nice hat. Prefer not to eat it. But, I will if Parramatta wins the rugby league.
We'll have to note that one down and revisit in a few more weeks.
Chuck it on the whiteboard.
So, other news. Dragons, new coach.
Anthony Griffin's come across. He had a better record than I would have thought. He's coached about 176 first grade games. His winning percentage is 55%. And I think out of the 8 seasons he's coached, he's missed the finals once, which isn't bad. However, there is him getting dumped from Penrith. I don't think he left Brisbane on the best terms.
I think Brisbane were very much, they gave Seabot a lot of rope, but they're very much trying to push the agenda, trying to, we're a finals team, we want to be at the top team, we want to compete. That's Brisbane mentality, and he kind of didn't fit there. And also, I think Wayne wanted to come back, and they were like, well, we're going to make a room for Wayne, so sorry, see you later.
What happened between him and Gus Gould at Penrith? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
it's because it wasn't I'm pretty sure when he got sacked, they were coming fourth.
Yep.
So it's not performance related, is it?
It all really depends on what they, whether it's to keep Ivan around, or to keep Nathan around. Do we bring Ivan back? Do the father-son deal. Because I think they think the world of Nathan, and it's probably proved them right that he's been the former halfback this year.
Yeah, it's a pretty fair investment.
Definitely. So, if he's saying, hey, I had enough of Anthony, I want to play with my dad, Ivan, what are you going to do there? You can't really say no, otherwise I'm going to go to Wests. And so you kind of have to, you put him in a hard spot. But I think then there's a whole bunch of stuff with Anthony's agent at the time, and who was leaking what and saying what in the media, and all that kind of hoo-ha bullshit that's coming out, broke down their relationship to the point it couldn't be repaired. But I think he's a good coach. I think he's a hard task manager.
Yep.
That's probably the main thing. So it really depends on how the players respond to that, whether like someone like Corey Norman is going to take that on well, or he's going to not take to that kind of coaching successfully. But he played at Brisbane. I think he played under Anthony at Brisbane. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I think Hunt did as well. So he's got some connections there.
A little bit of rapport.
Yeah. I think from the Dragons boys have kind of on the same page. They're a bit keen and excited for it. So time will tell.
I think they've got a good list there at the Dragons. Obviously, the performances over the last few years have been lackluster, but
again, they're one of those. I think we talked about it last week as well. They're one of those clubs that probably need that. They're missing that one veteran dude that's going to help them lead them round. Which they're in short supply. You don't find them easy.
Indeed. What's next cap off the rank there, Sean?
Well, there is a few other. Well, there's 2 other big stories I want to talk about before we move on. There's the obligatory Brisbane news. So you got talk about Bennett back to Broncos. In a coaching director role or something like that. So not the head coach.
Is this any more than a rumour?
Well, it seems as what was stopping Wayne from going back to Brisbane was Paul White, the CEO, was still there, and I think they've kind of fallen out in not terms. But Paul White finishes the end of this year and is leaving, and the incoming CEO is very open. He's like, he's already kind of putting out the words like, "We'd love Bennett back. It'd be great to be back here," but not as a head coach, as a coaching director or something, advisor, something like that. But if you think of your Kevy Walters or Paul Green as one of those blokes coming in and you're like, we got Wayne sitting over your shoulder, you should be asking yourselves questions. Or whether they want to go someone young, like, hey, if you bring in the Walker brothers and then you got Wayne sitting over the top, maybe that's a good arrangement. But I can't see it like senior coach like the other two want to have Wayne sit over the top of them.
I don't think those Walker brothers get the job. Personally.
I don't think the NRL's ready for their flavour of football yet.
I'd be ready.
I think it'd be so interesting to watch it. I'd be keen to watch it, definitely. But, yeah, old whites aren't keen for it. And then there's talk about Kieran Foran going to the Broncos. Because he's looking for a club. He tore his pec last week, I think, so he's not a great time for an injury, especially towards the end of the season.
Is he off contract end of this year?
I believe so, or they've
They're paying $1 million a year, I'm pretty sure. For him.
big money, and the doggies want him.
1.1
They want him off
maybe.
his books. They want him off the books. So,
Free up a bit of that salary cap.
yeah, definitely. So there's chat about him going to Brisbane with Tom Deaton, I think, as the halfback, and then you move Milford to fullback because Darius is retiring. But I don't think Milford's a fullback. And
I don't even know. I don't know what to say about Kieran Foran. I haven't seen him play football for. I think I've seen him play a few games in the last 2 years.
it doesn't help him. He's playing for the worst team in the comp at the moment. Besides
Yeah,
Brisbane.
but
Well, you go from one wooden spooner to the other wooden spooner. But he's a veteran player. Maybe he can help some of those young Brisbane players come through. I think it's a bit remiss to start talking about who you're going to have in your halves when you don't have a head coach yet.
Yeah, indeed.
True. So, who's picking that squad? Is it the board or is it the head coach?
They're in disarray. You look at their starting 17. There's no one on there that.
I'd pick Stags, and that's probably about it.
Yeah.
You probably make a case for Haas and Bungo Jr. and some of the other guys, talent wise, young talent, but then they just played like shit this year.
Yeah.
What are they missing? What mentally they're missing? If they got the wrong veteran boys in there, like we were talking last week, like Isaac Luke, is he the wrong guy in there leading them round?
He might have a good head on his shoulders. I think as a player, he's probably a bit past it.
Yeah, definitely. The last story I had was the Curtis Scott news. Have you seen the body cam footage?
Body cam? What was that about?
I haven't seen the footage. I know what the story is regarding.
He's basically done a Joel Franklin. Passed out underneath the tree. He's 100% asleep. And the coppers are rolled up on him trying to wake him up. And he's very much, they're pinching his ears, like squeezing his nose kind of thing, trying to wake him up. But he's gone. Like he's cactus. He's completely toasted.
Is this at the SCG?
So it's...
Is that the cricket, wasn't it?
There was some function, I think, and where he actually passed out was about a couple hundred meters away from the NRL headquarters. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some function.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Unfortunate place to pass out.
Yeah, but he's in Sydney and he's not from Sydney. He was lost, so he was a bit aggro leading up to that. And that's kind of what the police called. But then he passed out in a tree, and the coppers have found him under the tree. He's they're out cold, so they're trying to wake him up. And
does he try to
resist
or fight or anything?
As they're trying to wake him up, he swats one of the coppers' hands away, just like a fly. I was like, "What are you doing? You're trying to wake me up?" And then they're straight away like, "Stop resisting! Why are you resisting?" And he's got his hands on his chest, like trying to sleep, and they start trying to handcuff him. So, so basically, when he starts like waking up or coming, I don't want to say sobering up, but as he's coming, waking up a bit more, he wakes up, he's got handcuffs on. And then he's just like, I've done nothing wrong. What are you doing? And they pepper spray him, they taser him twice. And it was like, he's really done nothing wrong. He's heavily intoxicated. He wasn't really fighting back or lashing out or anything. The coppers really put him through the ringer. So, the magistrate took, one look at it. It was like, they never told you were under arrest and they handcuffed you, and you can't do that. So everything after they handcuffed you just gets thrown out. They were in the wrong here, so got off scot-free.
Scot-free? You do that one on purpose?
Not on purpose, but I'll take it.
So whether or not it's for their 5 minutes of fame, but apparently lawyers are telling Curtis Scott that he has every right to sue the police now.
Really?
Yeah. So I think that he's going to try and get his legal funds covered, so he doesn't have to pay for his legal funds.
Yep.
And then there's whether they go after the coppers for, breaching their powers and what they can actually do as coppers. Because there's about 4 or 5 of them, I think, in the end, trying to put him in a paddy wagon. They got to just slowly try to coax him up and say, mate, we're here to look after you. Come with us. We'll tell you, come down to the cop shop, sober up for a night, and we'll send you home.
It's so funny how the actual story compares to the way it was reported in the media, because I think the first thing that I heard of that was Curtis Scott has been suspended for assaulting police at the SCG.
Yeah, I think the Raiders basically gave him the stipulations like, if you're found guilty for any of this, you're gone. We're not, you're out. We can't keep you on. But I think they got, as part of the integrity unit, they were shown, they saw the body cam footage and, wow, there's nothing here. This is bullshit. That's why he kept playing. That's why he was playing and someone like Jack DeBellin isn't.
Thank God for that body, body camera footage.
Yeah.
Otherwise, their word versus his word.
Exactly.
Shout out to Curtis Scott if you're listening. Go out there and kill it for the Green Machine this NRL finals, and we're glad you've been acquitted of that.
Definitely. Good luck. Hopefully, you can score some points to the Raiders because they need some strike power. So, moving on. NFL Week 1.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
What an introduction to the NFL he had.
Massive, isn't it? 25 touches,
138, I think.
And a touchdown.
Not many receptions. So if you're a fan,
No, it didn't catch the ball very much.
Yeah, no. If you're looking at him for fantasy potential, especially if you're playing PPR, might be a little worried, but you'll still take.
I wouldn't be worried.
You'll still take $130 and
a man touches the ball 24 times and carries for 130 yards with a touchdown. I'm not worried about shit.
Yeah.
If he has 6 receptions this year, you're happy to take him.
Oh,
You're unhappy to play against him like I did today in my NFL fantasy team. However, the defending champion Killer Koalas, Tony Stevens, had Mecole Hardman starting, who had 16 yards today. So they sort of cancel each other.
Yeah, so much for the talk of Sammy Watkins not being involved in the passing game going forward.
That guy is
a mongrel.
He is the hardest guy to support in fantasy football outside of Tyler Lockett and Amari Cooper, I'm going to say, because he loves to show up once in a while and he loves to do nothing. And there's a few other guys like Amari Cooper who would sometimes have 30 points, sometimes have 0 points. But yeah, sometimes it just goes off. And in that Chiefs offense, you can, I think, just, It
must be game plan related because it very much was Watkins and Kelsey to start the
Yeah.
game. And even Tyreek Hill didn't really come into it till late in the second half. Too.
I think Bradley Roby, the guy that plays on Tyreek, other than that touchdown that he gave up today, is really good. He's a really top-notch corner, and he's quite
definitely
fast.
talented.
Yeah, he's quite fast, so he keeps up with Tyreek. But Chiefs, it wasn't really the points marathon that we'd expected. It was high-ish scoring.
I'd say they coasted. Well, not coasted, wrong word, but they did it easy. It looked easy.
Paddy only had to throw the ball 32 times. So.
They were down 7 after the first quarter.
Yeah.
Scored twice, came back, took the lead, scored a couple more times. We're up 30 points. We're good to go. We're done. And Texans only got really 2 garbage touchdowns at the end when the Chiefs are playing prevent defense is about it, and they let them throw the ball around. And Will Fuller got a whole bunch of good points too. So.
He did, yeah, towards the end there. What about
another one of those guys you can't really support in fantasy?
He's
hurt or not.
Yeah, he's an all or nothing type of guy. What about David Johnson? His debut for the Texans, scored a touchdown, had 19 carries.
Yep. 3 receptions.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked good.
Yeah, and he's 15, 19-yard touchdown scamper. It looks like vintage David Johnson. So
sure did.
If he can stay healthy, I think you'll get a good load there too from them.
You've got him in our league, don't you?
Yep. Solid 19.9 points.
Take that.
PPR today. So definitely take that.
So considering that there hasn't been any preseason this year, do you reckon it's only up from here for the Houstons once they get a little bit more consistency?
For the Texans?
Texans, sorry. Yeah. Texans, yeah.
Texans, same thing.
They didn't play bad today. And they've got...
No.
Deshaun, I think Deshaun earned that paycheck that he got. I think according to the paycheck, he's the second highest paid guy in the league. I don't know if he's the second best quarterback, but he's top 5. I think he is top 5. The defense,
they've got weapons on offense. Their defense is probably the question mark.
It's maybe not as good as they used to be. It's still defense with JJ Watt.
JJ Watt, and like you said, Roby. They've got some solid players there. It's even no team really compares well against the Chiefs. They've got 5-6 weapons. They're all got weapons all over the place. It's very hard to put a defense together that competes with them in a strong way. So first game, that was the first game of the season. The rest of the games are on Sunday, Monday for us.
Monday morning, Australian Eastern Daylight Saving. No,
Yep.
Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Give us a rundown, Monkey, of week one's games.
Yeah. So for Monday, we've got Eagles versus the Washington football team.
I think Eagles will smash them.
I'd say, I'll go Philadelphia there.
Dolphins versus Patriots.
Ooh,
Should be interesting.
Ooh,
Alright.
very interesting.
New England.
I think it'd be a close game actually. Maybe a touchdown in it.
It'll be better than it has been. But
Definitely.
I'm still going to go New England.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they use Cam and how Cam fits into it.
Is that one in Boston?
Yes, at Boston.
Or Foxborough, Massachusetts? I should say?
So you'd probably give Patriots the edge.
I'd say
for the
so.
best of
Yeah.
that as well. After that, we've got the Packers and Vikings.
Ooh, that's not a good week one
Interesting
game.
matchup.
Very, very interesting matchup.
Is that in Wisconsin
No,
or Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Ooh. Is it? No, we're not really winter yet, so it's not going to
Not
be
yet.
super cold there.
I mean,
Aren't they back
they're
in the
both-
dome?
It's still
Not
cold.
sure.
It's Minnesota, but it's not winter, so
But they're
I mean,
playing
you got
indoors.
the Packers as well.
They
They're
play,
True,
always
true,
they
much
play
more
indoors, don't they?
it's still cold indoors.
No, it's not. It's like room temperature.
The heater's pumping.
Yeah.
That's one big electricity bill.
That'd be a good game, I think. That'd be. I'm going to give the Vikes edge in that. I mean, I think the Packers will either. It's hard to say. Maybe they'll start hot and fade, or maybe they'll start off slow and then they'll build as Aaron kind of gets used to the guys around him.
My
Like-
pick
like
for that
the guys
game
already.
is take the unders. I think it'll be low scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook for 1,000 touches and 1,000 yards.
In a game,
I think he's going to get.
1 yard per carry.
Yeah. I think he's going to get a lot of the ball.
I'd agree with that. What else you got there, Monk?
So after that, we've got Colts and Jaguars.
Coles.
Yeah,
Has
big
to be
toe
the
Colts,
Colts.
I think.
Yeah.
Roll them over.
We've got Bears versus the Lions in Detroit.
Interesting Lions because they signed AP during the week as well. So they got a very heavy loaded backfield.
What about he's getting $1 million this year? He is undoubtedly the best running back of the last 10 years.
I think he's the best.
Undoubtedly. No.
Well, in the decade from the 2000s. Sorry, I fucked that.
The teenies.
After the change of the century, since then, he's probably been the best running back from there to now.
In the last 20 years.
to
Yeah.
2010.
Because his body of work covers that kind of period.
In the last 20 years, you're saying
Yeah.
2000 to 2020.
Because if I pick this decade, because he's kind of faded towards the end of this decade, so you might pick another back for this decade.
No, I'd pick him from 2010 to 2020. I think from 2000 to 2010, you might have a guy like LaDainian Tomlinson or
Yeah, but
possibly Sean Alexander.
So
Someone.
that's why I expanded it to the 2 decades, because I think there's no question across the 2 decades is the best running back. I think you can ask questions like you just did of between
Then
2000 to 2010 and then
Why
between 2000
in
to
the
2020.
fuck is he only getting $1 million this year
Well,
when guys like Deshaun, nothing against Deshaun Watson, he's getting $40 million.
Well, I think Cam's getting like $1 million. I know James Winston's getting like $1 million.
Doesn't make any sense,
There's a
does
lot
it?
of 1 year contracts.
Yeah,
now.
for $1 million bucks.
Prove it
like-
deals, just yeah. And salary cap's going to be a huge thing next year, depending on how much money they make league wise with COVID. So
Well, they'll be taking big cuts this year. You'd imagine.
yeah, it'd be a challenge because it's really interesting because we'll talk about the Von's injury in a second. But Denver looking at Clay Matthews because he's got bonuses owed to him by the Rams. I think he played for last.
Yeah, he
Yep.
played for the Rams last year.
Yeah, so he's got $2 million in bonuses. So I think Denver probably offered him the $1 million. So that's $1 million that they cover out of that $2 million. So Clay's still technically playing for free. He doesn't have to play, he gets $2 million. If he plays, they give him $1 million, it's $1 million of his bonus he's already getting.
Right.
It's just Denver's covering that bonus. So he's playing for free. So it's just like, well, I don't want to do that. And there's been a whole bit of talk today about it sounds like Clay doesn't want to play. He's retired. He's like, no, I want to play. It's just I want to get paid to play.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got my bonus money floating around. I don't need to, you to then pay me out of my bonus money I'm already getting. And I would like some on top of that. So, like, for example, if we signed a $3 million deal, he'd then be on the $1 million deal, $1 million a year deal that everyone else is on. But say someone like the Broncos would be on the hook for the $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they don't want to do it. So anyway, he'd be, a good veteran to kind of help come in and help replace Von, but it's very hard to replace Von.
Mm.
But that Von injury, very.
So it's a tendon in his ankle, but it's not his Achilles.
It's a dislocation. So it's a tendon dislocation. So I don't know which exact tendon is. I'm no doctor, but it's a tendon that sits in a certain groove. So what's happened is it's popped out of that groove. It's gone all loosey-goosey. So the surgery is basically they open him up. They then shape that groove. So they make that groove deeper. Then they put the tendon back in there.
Right.
And it's just hopefully there's no other damage and the tendons kind of can stretch and go back into the position right. So that's the kind of turnaround. So the same, worst case, it's season, 5 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Best case, 3 months. But there's been a few other pass rushers that have had a very similar kind of injury and been back in that, 10-week to 12-week time frame. So it's possible he could be back. Von's a freak. He's a freak body.
Yeah.
You never know. If it's like his tendons all really good, it's healthy, and they do the surgery properly, they put it in the right spot, you could have that 3-month turnaround or even a little bit quicker and be back on the field for Denver.
Time will tell.
Well, hopefully, if they can sneak in that 9-7, 10-6 kind of spot, sneak in the playoffs, big weapon to have back.
There's no reason they can't. I think their defense is sneaky good.
Yeah, I thought it was sneaky good. I'm a bit worried now with out Von.
Yeah.
They've got Reed and Jeremy Atachu there to replace him. So, and they were solid last year, but they're not fundamental.
They're solid. They're not. No one's really fundamental.
We'll put it this way: Denver last year, Von led the pressures. He had 52 pressures. Second was Shelby Harris. He had 17.
Right.
So you got Chubb, of course, was injured.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing because depending on if he can't play this year. And, he's 32 and he got a big contract if they don't bring him back or want to restructure him, whatever happens
Might
there.
not get to play with Chubb.
Yeah, well, they've played 4 games of Von and Chubb, and that's under Vic Fangio as well, who's one of the best defensive coaches in the league. So
I wonder how many sacks they had in that game, in those 4 games.
That was also when they started with Vic. And so across that time frame, they had 0 sacks and they lost all 4 of those games, I believe. But that was very much last year where they were learning that defense. They've struggled for the first 6-7 games before they even got close. And they brought in, switched up the talent, brought in Purcell and Alexander Johnson in the nose tackle and the inside linebacker position. And that kind of really changed their whole defense. They got the guys in there they needed to. But like you say, I think they're sneaky good. It's going to be hard without Von though. And then Cortland Sutton hurt his AC joint in his shoulder today at training. I was like, going to get any fucking worse. It's like, our best player probably on either side of the ball. And you're just like, oh my God. Just, yeah. I don't know if it's Denver's year at this rate.
Look, like we were saying, there's 7. That extra spot this year. It's 7 rather than 6. And I think the AFC is, other than the
top 2.
Other than the Ravens and Chiefs, I think it is a lot softer this year. So possibly Denver might scratch through for that 7th or 6th spot.
Fingers crossed. As long as they beat the Chargers, I'll be happy. Then the other kind of big news is, during the week, the cornerback for the Bills, White, Travarius.
Tredavious? Is it?
One of those.
I think it's Tredavious.
There's
an apostrophe in there.
Yeah, he's an apostrophe.
And there's a few capital letters.
Yeah. He signed had the biggest contract for cornerback.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then Ramsey, a day or two ago, topped it. So he's signed another massive deal to stay with the Rams.
He signed 4 years, $102 million, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
He's getting paid $25 a year.
Muggy, pull that up.
Jalen Ramsey, yeah. Right, it's big.
Jimmy the Chinaman, pull that up.
It's probably Stephon Gilmore. then Jalen. He might be. He's probably top 3 corner in the league.
Yeah, he fell off a little bit after his kerfuffle with the Jags, but once he got out of there, he's been solid for the Rams.
So largest contract ever for a defensive back.
Mm-hmm.
Signed 5-year deal worth $105 million.
5 years.
Deal
25
includes
plus
21.
average.
That's 21 a year.
Deal includes
Oh, sorry,
71
yes.
mil in total guarantees.
Cash.
Big contract.
Mm.
So the Rams have a quarterback, cornerback, and not much else.
They have good wide receivers.
True.
What do you think of
Woods-
Jared Goff as a NFL quarterback?
Oh, I think they're paying overs.
I agree.
He's a good solid quarterback, but he's not in that level of you when you start talking about
He's
Brady,
not elite.
Rodgers,
He's not elite.
Breeze.
He's not elite. No.
He's not elite. He's like Joe Flacco elite.
Who's Joe Flacco at this year?
He's backing up the Jets. He's behind Donald.
Jesus.
But he is 36.
That man, that's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, right?
Yeah. He was a shell of himself last year, so.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I'm going to duck out for a little wee. Keep it going.
Yeah, we'll keep going. We might talk about Formula One where he goes a little wee.
I have nothing to offer.
So, Miss Monkey, did you watch the race?
I did watch the race last weekend.
Thoughts?
It was interesting. Started off a little bit slow and then around about, what was it, lap 20, 22, or everything started
So, I think
to get a little bit
they.
exciting.
When did because there was one crash, I think.
So
No. So, the crash at the pit lane, I think, was lap 27.
yeah. So I
Oh,
think
no.
it was-
No. That's wrong. There was
a
lap
little
like
bit earlier.
20. Round 22, 23, there was the crash. And then I think on the restart, Leclerc just,
he just lost it.
he got some little bit of the white line, lost it and hit the wall doing, 200 plus kilometers an hour, which then ruined the tyre wall. So they had to red flag the race to then get him off.
That's it. So, and then after that they had the Lewis Hamilton had to have the stop-go penalty.
Yeah, so him and Antonio
Giovinazzi
with
Alpha.
both got penalised. Was it a 10-second stop and go?
10-second stop and go.
Yeah,
So,
for entering the pit lane when it was closed. Cause
So with Magson's crash, I think it was a
failure of
it
some
was
sort.
a power unit failure. It was very close to pit entry, so rather than taking it off the course elsewhere, they decided to roll it through
Well,
the pit. So
there was no other room, so that's basically all they could go.
yeah, so they closed it off. Apparently, no one at Mercedes realised until after Hamilton's entered, and then it was all
So
game over for Hamilton.
if my memory serves me correctly, Giovinazzi came in first, and then Hamilton came in. But as part of that, they get notified.
I don't know who came into pit lane. I think Hamilton came into pit lane first. Giovinazzi.
I think it was the other way around. I think Giovinazzi came in first and Hamilton. Anyway, it's probably semantics. Because I know they very much were talking about when a safety car is deployed, they put up, all the teams get the same notices. They get all the notices, it flashes up on their screen saying, safety car's coming out, pit lane's closed, so don't come in.
They do get the notifications.
I thought it was very interesting where they had, because it's a hard right-hand turn. You're pulling 5Gs, and on the far left, on a very long run-off area, is the two square lights to say it's closed. You could possibly have it in the close inside on the left lane, but you're probably not looking in that direction either. So it's a bit hard to notice. So Hamilton's very much relying on his team, and I think his team fucked up in this one. So
Yeah.
they have to take the blame for that. Oh, we should have told him to stay out and not come in and get penalised.
Yeah.
But I thought what was really interesting was during that red flag, he got on his scooter and went down to the bloody head office to complain to the FIA that what's going on? How come I wasn't getting penalty? You can't penalise me. There's not blah 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 whatever. That's like use the NRL comparison. One of the players running off at halftime, going up to the bunker and asking, "Why'd you make that shit call?" I'm not sure if it's a bit sportsman or a bit fair, but Hamilton's Hamilton. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, he can. And I mean, despite that, he did race pretty well after the stop-go penalty to come all the way from the back of the pack, work his way up through some traffic to get to 7th. Does lead to the question as to the setup with the Mercedes car and whether or not it is made to lead from the front or if Hamilton's just a really good driver.
It was quite interesting because you watch Bottas basically stuck in 6th for the whole race and complained throughout. Like the engine settings weren't helping him. He can't really progress at all. And then Hamilton very much clear air from back of the field. I think he started 30 seconds back and he made 30 seconds up, but of course everyone moves around, so it's not exact science. But in clear air, he's making up about 5 seconds a lap on guys in front of him. But as soon as he got behind someone, he had to pick his opportunity to then get around them to then be able to, make up positions, which of course slowed him down in the end. That's why he didn't go from last to first. Give him another 20, 30 laps. Yeah, he's probably going to pull that off. And if this happens lap 1 or 2, yeah, he's probably going to go from the back of the grid all the way to the front. He was just that quick. But it was very much, it looked like Mercedes cars are designed to race 1 and 2 clear air and race against each other, not against anyone else. But, when you've won the championship, 4 years in a row now, being the head of the pack, you can get away with it. I guess those kind of they've designed their car very much to be the front running team.
Yep.
So then what? Talking about driver switches, Perez gone from the Racing Point.
Yep.
End of the year.
Out.
I think doesn't have a seat for next year, so he's
not at the moment. I think it'd be pretty hard for him to fill a seat as well.
Looking to be replaced by
the one and only Sebastian Vettel. He's off contract with Ferrari next year, making room for Carlos Sainz. So Vettel is now moving to Racing Point, who next year will be racing under the Aston Martin brand.
Yeah, Aston Martin back into the Formula One. And then on the switches, the Williams family are out as F1 owners. They have sold. Sold on to...
I can't remember the name of the firm, but it's a New York investment firm. They've taken the opportunity to just casually buy an F1 team.
As you do, spare cash lying around, buy an F1 team.
Chump chase.
Yep, that's it. So with that, Italy was the last race that both Frank and Claire Williams were on as principal and deputy principal, team principals, which now leaves Christian Horner at Red Bull, the only British principal in F1.
Wow. And what are your thoughts, Monkey, on reverse grid? After watching Hamilton make up, I think, because there was about 3 cars, I think, out by the time he was last, so he was 17th to 7th, so making up 10 spots.
It's an interesting concept. I definitely don't think you can use it as your Q3 into the main race. That's just... I mean, there's obviously teams who are always going to be better, and I think that's just disadvantaging them a little bit too much.
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit as well, that those teams very much can easily game whatever system they come up with, and if you're going to devalue qualifying, won't value it at all, and so they get a better position. They'll try to qualify last so they can start first.
You're artificially changing the competition, and it's definitely going to be to the detriment of the quality of your race, especially in qualifying. I think in theory it works. It'd have to be something similar to like sort of a sprint championship, maybe held during qualifying or towards the end of your free practice, so that you can gain some points out of it. It gives some of those teams at the lower end of the standings a chance to earn some points and I guess, level the playing field out a little bit from the driver championship.
Because I think at the moment you can only get points on 1 through 10 in the fastest lap.
Yep.
So if you add some points for qualifying and how that works out, then you get that competition. But then what you do on Saturday might then not correspond to what you need to do Sunday. So maybe there's a bit of disjoint there. But I think still, it's an interesting concept. I think overall Formula One has a spectacle problem. You know, it's been too procession, and everyone keeps talking about it. It's overtakings, either.
Overtaking's almost non-existent.
Well, it's either non-existent
at the front of the pack at least.
Yeah, or when it does happen, it's very fluid, as in it's just on a straight, and your car's just quicker in a straight line because you've got KERS and DRS, and around you go. So they've lost a lot of that wheel-to-wheel kind of attacking. I found it very interesting though so far. When there has been contact, a lot of cars keep going, and years gone by, contact, you touch tyres and someone's tyres blowing up and you're out of the race kind of thing. So I don't think they want to go back to some of that wheel-to-wheel action, make a bit of rubbing, a bit of bumping, to build that spectacle, especially do deep dives late in the corners, brake late, try to do moves on corners you wouldn't expect them. Instead of just waiting lap, this lap I don't have a good run, I'll wait to the next lap, try to get him on the straight, use my DRS around to go kind of thing. Trying to put it more into the driver's hands of drive fast, drive aggressive, kind of like Ricciardo does, then wait to an opportunity where you're just using the technical expertise of or the technical capabilities of your car to make it around.
100%. And it can only add value to the sport because you have so many young drivers in F1 now that just are really talented but can't compete because
very long,
they're with
young
those
field too.
Williams, or they're racing for Alpha, or AlphaTauri obviously got the win with Pierre Gasly this year, last week, but
yeah. Big win for him.
Yeah,
first French
win
since quite a while.
I think it was like 24 years. I think 24, 26 years. But unless he has another situation like last weekend, or if he moves to a team higher up in the grid, he's not going to get that same.
It's a rare race. Like this race maybe happens once a season kind of thing, if you're lucky. Otherwise, it doesn't happen that way, and doesn't get all muddled up the order. Because I think they were saying they only had one red flag last year as well. So the red flag races doesn't happen often. It doesn't mess up the running order and how things are going.
No, and again, it only messed up because Hamilton had the penalty. Yep. If that wasn't the case, then he probably still would have led. I suppose to touch on that as well, Verstappen also had a power unit failure, I think, as well, so he had to retire. So those two out of the race, Bottas with a really bad start at the start of the race, kind of led to a very rare occurrence.
It kind of didn't help McLaren and Renault. They were in that bracket of 4 through to 7, 8. The red flag and the reshuffling kind of really ruined their races. It brought the racing points into it, and Gasly and the etc. into the race. Whereas pushed them back.
McLaren, if there was a few more laps, if there was one more laps, it looked like Seitz was going to pull out in front of Gasly. Seitz
he wanted that win so bad.
Had some fresher tyres, and Lando Norris came in at 4th behind Racing Point. Interesting race.
Definitely, very interesting. Moving on. NBA playoffs. Be good if I could speak English.
NBA playoffs.
Playoffs.
Scrap.
Few too many of those Carlton dries.
Not as many as Bebby.
On the Esky, proudly sponsored by Carlton Dry. Awaiting confirmation there.
So, Mark?
The NBA playoffs, it's interesting. So the Heat's through in the East.
Conference final for them?
Yes, conference final and conference semi-final, Game 7 to go ahead tomorrow. Boston Celtics, Toronto Raptors. Hard to pick. Obviously,
been close.
There's no home court advantage.
Did you see the Toronto's head coach? I think Celtics had the ball. He caused a turnover, so he's in the corner of the court, hunched over like on his knees, like he's in a position ready to go, like to like looked like a player. So one of the Boston Celtics players like, oh yeah, I'll pass him the ball, throws the ball straight at the coach, and the coach just turns and the ball goes out, causes a turnover. They Toronto, of course, get the ball back.
Is that in the spirit of the game?
Probably not, but it's not. It's within the laws of the game. I don't think you can get in trouble for it.
Is winning in the spirit of the game?
Exactly.
I
At all
mean,
costs.
you're professional players. You're supposed to know where you're throwing the ball.
I agree,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Hey, he wasn't wearing a Boston Celtics uniform, and he doesn't look like a player.
It's like the old fake call for the ball in Aussie rules football. yeah, give.
Dusty, over here.
You just got to know someone's name. Bang, you got the footy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
That could go either way.
either way,
That could go either way. I think what's
I
probably...
think the Heat have actually had a really easy run up to there. They've won 4-1, 4-1.
Easy. They beat the number one Bucks in the East. So
True, I think they did it 4-1. So
no Greek freak.
Yeah,
so
true.
it makes a big difference. But I've got to think that whoever wins the West wins this. I think the Lakers or Clippers.
Yeah, well, what's that? So the Lakers, I think, are up 3-1.
3-1 against the Rockets, and the Clippers are up 3-1 against the Nuggets.
Should clinch.
Yeah, I just got the feeling that whoever wins the West wins.
Yeah. I think that LA conference final is going to be
Interesting. I don't know.
It's going to be big.
I don't know if the Lakers and Clippers have ever played in the Western Conference Finals.
Oh, it's probably been a long time if it has.
Well, I just don't think. I'm sure the Lakers have played in plenty, but
Definitely.
I don't.
But against each other, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the Clippers have played in many, if any.
Yeah, not in a long time. I think because the Clippers have, well, since I've,
They've always sucked.
they've always sucked. They've always had was it Gordon? Who was their first rounder that was there for like a decade?
Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin. I knew it was over G. He was there carrying that squad for a very long time and just never got him over the hump. But that's going back because he hasn't been there for 3 or 4 years now, I think. So back 15 years, I can remember. They haven't done overly well.
Yeah, be interesting. Heat. I think it'll be Heat and Celtics. I want to go to win that game, and then I think whoever wins the West wins.
Yeah. I don't think I've got much more to add to that.
Moving
on. Cricket. So Australia versus England in the T20 series. England has won the series. They're 2-1. They won the first 2 games, and Australia, of course, won the dead rubber. I think Joe was Josh Butler or Josh and Josh. Scored 44 and 77. So one of the keys to the game. Aaron Finch was probably the pick of our players, 46, 40 and 39. Not great scores in comparison, but the best for us.
All starts.
Yeah, so the 3-match ODI series begins
tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That's September 11, 2020 at about 10 p.m. Australian Eastern. Look, we were right there. I think we lost game 1 by 2 runs. Yeah.
Had it well in hand as well.
Yeah, and really
failed.
Really died in the ass. It's just, for me personally, it's just good to see some cricket. It's been a long time given the virus.
But speaking of seeing cricket, Channel 7 terminating?
Not be able to watch it for too much longer.
Terminating their deal with Cricket Australia. CA didn't want to budge on any negotiations of money, so 7 said, "All right, see ya."
And that's fair. That's fair enough. I can see where 7's coming from. They've paid for a product which obviously isn't going to deliver.
Yeah, I think they're worried about the quality of it. So.
Yeah, given the circumstances, I would love Channel 9 to buy it.
Sneak back in. Maybe they get it on a good deal as well. And
get it for a fucking quarter of the price.
They had it. Yeah,
that'd be great.
Good.
Richie Benno from the grave.
Well, you feel for some of those commentators that have bounced around between both channels of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Lost their jobs, got their jobs back, or maybe get their jobs back at a 9. Be interesting to see what Foxtel does because they've got the other
they do.
small, well, not as big as a percentage, but they've got a percentage of it. Also looking to get a bit of a discount on their deal, but whether that happens or not, whether they do, they go Sevens path and say, we want nothing, or maybe they go back and go, we want all of it. And then all cricket on pay TV. I think
That'd be sad.
That'd be pretty sad.
Yeah, it would be for if you're
You've seen how rugby union's done with no free-to-air TV poorly. I don't think cricket would survive if they did that model.
I think that'd survive. I don't think it would be quite as catastrophic as rugby is.
I wonder if they split it up again. Big Bash goes to Channel 10 and the international ODIs and that go back to Channel 9 because ABC's not stumping up money. I know it's completely out of SBS's wheelhouse. 7 said no. 10 probably doesn't have enough money, so 9's the one that it'll be in there.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. That's whether they want it or not. They've got the tennis now, so they might be like, we don't have money for you.
Would be great, but to chuck the telly on a weekend in summertime, it's fucking 38 degrees outside. And dun, dun, dun.
Some cold ones with the cricket. Lovely. But yeah, interesting story to follow in the coming weeks because when does the cricket season officially start here for us?
I think this year will be different.
Isn't it not to the Big Bash in the end of the year, or have they got?
No, Big Bash is normally about December 20.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, the test matches normally start late November, early December. There you go. Who's coming this year? Is it India?
India.
Yeah.
So they might not be allowed to come after you look at Corona in India at the moment.
Mate, if you've got some money or you're going to make some money, they'll change the rules. They will change the rules.
Well, if it's played in Queensland, definitely.
So you got the games there amongst it. I think they're playing India for 4, and I think Afghanistan's coming, aren't they?
Yep. Afghanistan's coming for a one-off test.
So is this
at the end of
the top
November?
Australian team going to play Afghanistan? Or
Nah, Tuggeranong Vikings are playing it. I'm batting 6.
I'd feel for Afghanistan if they have to play the top team.
Tuggeranong Vikings. Here they've been. I reckon if we played Afghanistan over there, or maybe in
at home, yeah,
or we're not playing them there, but
yeah,
in the Emirates or
Pakistan or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It might be interesting. Here, it's gonna be a bloodbath.
Oh, absolutely. That was why I was asking. Do they play the top squad or does the Cricket Australia, the Australian team think about let's get the second or even third strings in and bring some young fellas through and see how they go?
It's still a test match. I think they play the best players available. Right.
They're probably thinking, can we get 1,000 runs in an innings?
Break some records.
Can you look up the record? What is
I think West Indies got up pretty close to that.
I don't think.
Actually, no, in a test match, I think they got close to 1,000, but I don't think.
I don't think anyone's ever made more than 800.
Yeah, most runs in a test match.
Look at this.
799, I'll go.
Oh, 4 figures.
Jeez, there's a lot of words here.
Just most runs test match. Innings.
Team scoring record.
No one's scored 800.
I think there's probably definitely 1,000 in an innings now, in a test match now.
So
I'll eat my words.
Most runs in an innings?
Yeah.
Sri Lanka versus India in 1997. 952.
Oh, that was close. There had to be one where there's some team like with the top team like that.
They drew that game. They would have drawn that game. Fuck off, you winning 952.
They bat for 4 days and then we're like, we're done, boys.
Yeah.
Thanks for the batting practice.
So, in recent history, the closest would be Pakistan against Sri Lanka, 2008, 2009. Pakistan scored 765.
Yeah, so that's believable.
Yeah.
952, highest test score. That is a fucking lot of runs.
The good question would be how many were those singles? Are the boys running hard or that is 4, 6, 4, 6?
Well, speaking of running hard, what about the boys over in England at the moment? They've got they hit a boundary, they jump over the fence to get the ball.
True. In a 60, there's no one there to go fetch it for you.
Got to do it. It's like reminiscent of their junior days, you know?
Yeah.
Going to get the ball after it goes across the line.
That's it. Imagine getting smacked for 6 and then having to go get the ball from the other side of the fence.
The bowler's not.
No,
Well, no, but
guys feeling
As
the
a
outfield
team,
was just
yeah.
like,
Yeah. Demoralising.
oh, big time demoralising.
Good, but good with the humility. What else you got on that list there, Shauna?
So we talk a bit about some fighting. Let's go into first. We go with UFC. The big fight coming up is Israel. I can't say his last name because I always fuck it up. Adesanya and Paul Costa.
Mm-hmm.
So they fight on the 26th, I think it is, which is 2 weekends away.
Yes.
Yep.
20.
so I got 20.
Tomorrow's 12th, 13th, 27th.
Yeah, it's
27th our time, 26th.
Yeah. 27th will be a Sunday for us.
Costa looks good, man. Like,
He definitely looks good. Does he pass the sniff test?
Well, he's unproven.
I don't know. When was his last fight?
So he fought Rael Romero before Romero fought Israel. So he won that fight, and I think he hurt his shoulder or elbow in that fight. That's why then Romero took the fight with Israel, which Israel, of course, won. So now, of course, Costa's healthy, so he's the number one contender and ready to go. And they've had a lot of back and forth, I think, for the last year.
There's some bad blood there.
Yeah. They're talking some shit.
Definitely some shit. Israel loves to talk some good shit.
He sure does.
But I find it hard to pick who can. I thought Romero would challenge Israel a bit more, but as anyone that watched that fight knew, that Romero took a very counter fighter stance, and Israel did very similar, which resulted in not very much action. Romero is very much looking for the one shot coming in, didn't rely on his wrestling or anything like that. It'd be interesting to see Costa, again, another big human being, physical specimen, whether he tries to impose some of that physical capability on Israel, try to cut him off the cage, get him on the fence, put his work in instead of letting Israel pick him off, using Israel's superior striking and his range on what Costa could possibly do. It's still an interesting fight.
Fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I think the rest of that card, I think, is pretty average though.
Who else is on that card?
From what I remember.
253. So we got Dominic Reyes versus Jam. I'm going to butcher this.
The light heavyweight title replacing John Jones.
Yep. He's Czech, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even going to attempt it. It's a full. I can't get it out because it's a tongue twister.
Try.
I've heard it said, and I'm trying to repeat what it said.
Blachevics.
No, it's not. It's not like Wix. It's
Fitch.
Yeah, it's like that.
Blachevic.
Yeah, something like that.
Blachevic.
So
WICZ.
He's really been. I don't want to say he's a nothing in that division, but he's had a good run of late. But he really had done nothing up to his run. Very much like everyone else in that division. Like for example, Anthony Smith, who lost last weekend after having his good run, fought Jones and done nothing since. Dominic again went on a good run, ran into Jones. Well, definitely competitive fight, but again Jones wins. So it'll be interesting with that division. Everyone thinks it's really weak just because Jones was so superior and just cleaned it out and beat everyone in the top 10. What that then becomes without him, who kind of takes that mantle, whether it'll be a lot of really interesting battles where the title changes a lot, who knows? And they're also talking Brock Lesnar for John Jones at heavyweight.
I've heard that. Yeah.
So be interesting to see if Brock's interested in money fight.
That's a bit rude against Stipe. That surely he. If anyone gets to fight John Jones, it's Stipe before Brock or.
Well,
I think Stipe's also said that he's new to the division. He's got to prove himself.
Yeah, it's very much a prove yourself fight. You got to earn that title shot
before you can have the belt.
Yeah. So I think Stipe's booked to fight Francis Ngannou.
That's a cool fight.
That's a good fight. So Francis definitely improved and better than he was when he first fought Stipe. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do on that. Stipe, I think's
He's been
the best fighter in that division at the moment.
He's been back in Cameroon. I follow him on Insta.
Mm.
He's been boxing against pretty ordinary opposition. This one was to put it that way.
Yeah.
But man, he looks in.
Who would want to step in a ring with him, really?
Oh, he looks like he's in incredible shape.
No, he's in good nick. But I think what also appeals to John Jones about the Lesnar fight is because DC wanted that Lesnar fight, couldn't put it together.
Yeah, I did hear that.
So it'll be another one of those things you can put over DC. So I've taken your title multiple times. You couldn't beat me. I now got the fight you couldn't get. Yeah, interesting. You know, there's definitely bad blood there, but there's a really interesting rivalry as well. Trying to compete there, and I think that's kind of Jones is like, well, DC's retired now. I'm going to go out, get the heavyweight belt, be a better heavyweight champion than him, just be better than him in every spot. If that's really his driver, like that's, I don't want to say it's cool, but it is kind of a cool kind of thing to push.
Yeah, motivation.
It's like, it's a motivation. It's probably the chip he needed because, you know, I don't want to say everyone in the light heavyweight. Yeah, I did say it right. Yeah, light heavyweight division.
Back yourself.
Yeah, are all chumps.
Carlton Dry.
They're all,
Shout out to our major sponsor.
Yeah, they're all chumps in that division. They're all just they clearly weren't at his level, but yeah, he needed that. He probably needed that motivation. They needed that change if he wants to continue his career and probably go down as I think he's pound for pound best fighter at the moment, but go down as the pound for pound best fighter of all time in the UFC. He could definitely cement his legacy if he wins a heavyweight title and defends it 4 or 5 times.
He needs to defend it. Yeah.
So the other big in say the fighting realm news in the boxing, I think there's talk for Tim Tszyu to get a Tim Tszyu to get a title fight.
He
Which
deserves it from what I've seen.
So, and when I say title fight, I think a world title fight because he's got the Australian title, of course.
Australasian.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Pretty much Australian.
yes. And I've forgotten the guy's name that they're looking at. Him, it'd be a very big step up for him on the world stage, of course. Is he middleweight? I think he's middleweight.
Light middleweight.
Light middleweight, there you go. And I think the guy that aiming to put him against has a record of 19-1 or something like that. Impressive record. Most of those by KOs, of course. So it'd be a decent step up for him, but again, on the world stage, possible having the title fight here in Australia. And I think this year too, they're aiming for the end of this year. Whether they can pull it off, I think they're picking Australia because the way we've handled COVID here has been a bit better than some of the other places. So if he can get entry into the country, he's less likely to have any problems. But yeah, it's big news for him. Big win over Horn a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
See him. Well, he's the boxing future of Australia. Could be the greatest boxer to come out of Australia, probably since his father.
From what I've seen, unbelievable. Like, I'll say it right now, I'm no boxing aficionado, no expert, but from what I was saying, he's what, 16-0? He hasn't lost.
Yeah, close to that, or maybe 15-0 now after Jeff Horn.
He hasn't lost a professional fight. He towed up Horn.
Yeah, well, they were saying Horn was a big leap for him, and he clearly outclassed him. He was several levels kind of above where Horn was by then. Again, Horn's probably run his run, and he's, whether he comes back and has any more fights or whether he probably doesn't need him realistically after his Benny Packer fight and then fight in Crawford in the US. He's probably got enough money he could go back to teaching and be happy.
Yeah.
But he clearly outclassed him, was way above him, so he's probably ready for that step up in competition.
You'd think he's on to bigger and better things.
Oh, definitely. And if you bring that stuff to Australia and have big events here, whether it's in like somewhere like Townsville again, that'd be quite interesting.
How good for the city of Townsville. They get the new stadium.
Stadium is very nice, by the way.
Yeah, and that fight looked unreal. And, hats off to everyone that put that together, the North Queensland Cowboys and everyone that had to do with the construction up there. That looked like a really nice venue to host a really good boxing event.
So staying on the theme of boxing, Canelo is, I think, suing. He's got a contract with the Zone and I think one other promotion or one other channel for roughly around the $500 million mark. I think he's had 3 or 4 fights on that and only earned about 120 mil of that contract. But I think there's argument over from say the Zone side. They're saying he hasn't fought anyone of note like they kind of promised. And he's saying, well, I've had only title fights, so it's a bit hard to say. I've been fighting good competition title fights. Probably just not the guys they wanted him to fight. They're probably thinking, hey, I want you to fight triple G like 50 times. But you can't do that every time. You got to fight some other guys that are coming through as well. And I think his side of it is very much unpaid wages and or he hasn't been giving, or the holding off a lot of his purse. So I think his last fight was like a 45 mil purse. And he's only got a small cent of that. He didn't get the whole thing, so they've been withholding money from him. So he's now suing. So there's a big legal fight, and he's clearly the biggest name and probably the pound for pound at the moment in the boxing class by far. Besides the heavyweights, of course, big names. The big fights coming up with Fury, Joshua, and Wilder, and that trio. That's their for viewing entertainment are up there, but pure talent. I think Canelo's you'd be hard not to pick him.
Yeah,
They get that right, James? It's very hard to find I'm just looking it up now. So he's filed a lawsuit for $500 million. Which I think is his contract now.
So $500 million.
His claim is that the promoters did not live up to their terms of his 11-fight, $500 million agreement made 2 years ago. He's seeking $280 million US in the lawsuit.
A bit of money.
Yeah, you think Paddy Holmes is in a bit of money?
Yeah.
11 fights, which probably go 30 minutes at most. If they're 12 3 rounds, a little over 30 minutes, or the 40-minute kind of mark. And Paddy Holmes, he's got 10 years of 500 mil and he's got to play probably 20 games a year kind of thing. Well, that's their expectation, play finals.
Might have to wrap this podcast up and start boxing.
Start your trainer now.
Yeah, I'm not sure about your nose, Peps.
Don't worry about the nose. It's the chin. It's a weak chin.
Well, I might flatten your nose out a little bit for you. The last story I had on my list here, of course, was the US Open at the moment. I think Serena Williams through to the final.
Boo.
Another final for her. The last Aussie got knocked out yesterday. Diminor, yep. In his, what do they call it? Starts with a Q. It's not. Is it a quarterfinal or is it
quarterfinal?
Is it quarterfinal? Yeah. So he got towed up. I think he's ranked 28, and he faced the number 3 seed, who just put him to the sword. But I think the biggest story was the disqualification of Djokovic for hitting the lines person or ball person.
Lines person, yep.
Yeah, in the throat with a tennis ball. Very much just trying to hit it back in that direction. Probably a mishit swing, hit it a bit hard. Got a bit full force and hit her straight in the throat. The rules say, well, I actually don't know what the rules say. I think it's something to do with, I don't want to say it's attack or malice or aggression shown to a lions person of some description, but that's that action is not tolerated and hence why he was disqualified.
Yeah, you need to be able to control where you're hitting the ball. You can't just aimlessly hit it anywhere.
Yeah,
sort of thing. So
usually all they do is they tap it and it has 3 or 4 bounces back to the lines person at the back there, but he's giving it a bit of an old swing, and I gotta say she's a bit of an old duck. Couldn't get her head off the centre line.
Definitely shouldn't start boxing.
Yeah,
I don't want to victim blame here. I'm not a victim blamer.
Well,
but that was a pathetic attempt to get out of the way of a line of a tennis ball. It was horrible.
Definitely. I think if you've got the young lads and lasses of the, say, the Australian Open, one of them's probably ducking out of the way or catching that ball.
I've reacted slower to people not laughing at my jokes. Do you know what I mean? Pause for laughter. Yeah. So that was her reaction to Djokovic hitting that ball. Look, honestly, I think there's no malice intended.
So I think some common sense is going to come into it. But,
Yeah.
tennis, pommy sport, yes?
Originally French/English.
But,
That part of the world.
yeah, the I don't want to say pretentious Europeans, but
Oh, it was pretentious.
but the upper class kind of sport. But then you think of probably the best comparisons, maybe cricket.
Yeah.
You hit an umpire with a ball in cricket, and he just has to wear it. So it's kind of an.
But what if you deliberately hit the ball at the umpire? Not that he deliberately did that, but it's not as if he's gotten the back foot, played a hook shot, it's gone straight into square leg. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we're talking more of the scenario of, say, someone's thrown the ball in and it's come to them and they've just swatted it away and it's hit the umpire.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think they get the team, of course, doesn't get disqualified. Does it get sent off?
I think the disqualification is harsh.
Definitely. I think sometimes, like, again, some common sense. Like, if he's there abusing that ball person and then smacks a ball straight at them.
Different story.
An accident like this, yeah, maybe he loses the point or loses that point, or if you want even extreme, maybe take that set from him.
Yeah, the set.
But give him an opportunity that, hey, I can keep going versus complete disqualification at that point. Especially when, that bird can't duck. So, but it's interesting, I think, James, you were saying before that happened to Williams, Serena Williams, that is, a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
she got disqualified.
Can't remember off the top of my head where it was, but she got disqualified. Well, there was a lot of media attention when, I guess for lack of a better word, she sort of spat the dummy and got a little bit frustrated on court, and how
I think that's more malicious than what Djokovic did.
Yeah, and at the time, I guess with Me Too movement and all that sort of stuff, there was a little bit of an argument as to why she got disqualified, whereas someone else, like a Federer, might not have been disqualified.
So I think that's the following point. Federer did something similar.
Yes.
Didn't get disqualified, but when?
No.
Do you know when that was? Was that after Serena or before?
No, that was a few years before.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's sort of what led on to a little bit of the uproar with Serena Williams.
So I guess they've come back around and, like, to be consistent. Well, sorry, by the laws, Djokovic, you're out. Which then very much opens up that competition for everyone else, because he was clear favourite. I think he was going to cruise to that win. Very much probably the reason why he was over there and pushing for having the competition, because he's like, hey, this is one I'm going to add to my bow very easily. But maybe this is Kyrgios can be happy, get a bit of karma, and out he goes. And he can't win that title.
That's it. So Serena Williams was defaulted from the 2009 US Open.
That's fairly
2009.
So it was a while ago, actually. Following an argument with the line judge, who reported the American for verbal abuse.
That's going back.
Verbal abuse, that's nothing to be taken lightly, I suppose.
What did she say?
I haven't got that in front of me.
You fucking crazy cracker.
But I think Serena Williams, if she wins, so just going back to her win record at the moment, for the wins the US Open, I think that's 18 or 19 Grand Slams for her, if I got that right. And she's chasing down Margaret Court's record of 21. She's getting pretty close.
I thought she's one behind. Can you get that up, Jim? The Chinaman.
Jimmy the stat man at this rate.
Yeah, he's doing an excellent job. Pilot
Doing
too.
there.
So women's tennis Grand Slam singles winners. Most.
Yeah, most women's Grand Slam wins.
I think Serena's too.
I think she's clear too, definitely. I'm just not sure how far behind Margaret Court she is, or if she's caught Margaret.
Not far. I wouldn't have thought far.
So Margaret. Ooh. All right. What are your bets?
Margaret Court's got maybe 20.
I think she's got 21. If I remember correctly, it's around the 21.
21?
Or
24.
Whoa.
that was my second guess. Or it's 24.
So 11 Australian Opens,
Yeah.
5 French Opens, 3 Wimbledons, and 5 US Opens.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great record.
Is Serena 2?
Serena is 2.
21.
No, 23.
So you were
Yeah.
right, one behind. So
She's
she wins this,
behind.
she ties.
That's fucking incredible as well. 23.
Yeah.
Because Ranches, I don't know, well, it's probably a poor comparison, but because Williams, of course, had a kid a year or two ago now,
Yeah.
Mm.
taking that year or so out of the sport to then come back and then still be at that high level, still be competing. Again, it's another bow in her cap.
Yeah, great athlete.
Oh, definitely.
She's amazing.
Yep.
Doesn't mind a whinge though.
Well, great tennis family as well.
Yeah. Pedigree.
Definitely.
Who's 3 on that list?
Number 3, that would be Steffi Graf,
Really?
Yep.
22.
22. Oh, not
Yeah,
far.
so
That's not bad,
we're very close to that top 3.
Who's
I
4?
didn't need graph.
4 is Helen.
Navratilova.
No, she is equal 5th
Oh, okay.
at 18. She's equal 5th with Chris Everett. And
Everett.
before them is Helen Wills Moody.
American.
Yes.
Possibly. Again, probably decades that we weren't alive for.
A long, long time ago.
I mean, she was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in 1959.
Yes. So probably before the wars.
There is literal dinosaurs walking around that are younger than her. Righto.
Well, lads, that's all I had for my list of stories for this week.
What did we learn?
Sean can't speak or do maths.
We already knew that, didn't we?
True.
We learned that we think there's 5 teams that can win the AFL this year.
Yep.
All agreed on that.
I think there's 4 teams in the NRL that are clear favourites, with 2 of the maybe say senior teams.
I would say 3. Scratch Parramatta.
Scratch Parramatta.
Scratch them.
Well, just an update on that. It looks like Penrith are going to beat Parramatta.
14-2.
Yep.
2 minutes left.
And
I'm going to say it's out of Melbourne, Sydney Roosters, and Penrith.
yeah, it's probably those 3. In the AFL at the moment, you've got Richmond and Geelong playing a very close and low-scoring game. Well, actually, close is the wrong word. It's low-scoring. I think they've been in front by about 40 for most of this game. They just haven't scored points. I do remember looking at it. I think 3/4 and half time was around the 40-11 mark. So
However, currently Richmond lead Geelong 45-29. That is 16-point margin with 6 minutes, 43 seconds to
so
go.
very low-scoring. Richmond most likely, I think, will hold on to that.
You'd think so, yeah.
I think so. Which again, I think Richmond were behind Geelong on the ladder when we looked at it earlier.
Yeah, the Geelong was running 3rd and Richmond was running.
So I think they're
4th.
all now on 44 points.
Who can win this? Port, Brisbane, Geelong, Richmond, West Coast.
And West Coast. They're the 5. That's what we've learnt. That's what we said.
There's more teams that can win the AFL this year than the NRL.
Yeah. And the competitive teams as well, like all at the top. Then we talked about the NFL. Chiefs going to chief on.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He could be the real thing.
Do you reckon back-to-back?
I think
I
so.
know, very early, but...
It's early, but
Back-to-back is
I think
very
so.
hard.
I think so.
But for them, their team, that very doable.
It's theirs to lose.
Mm.
Then we talked a bit about the Formula One and the ongoing races. I think we were just watching some of the live practice as well in the background. Where was that? Was that Tuscany or something?
Yeah, Tuscany. So second race in Italy.
Second race in Italy. I think all the races this year are in Europe. I don't think they're going outside Europe. Just to save on travel and stuff like that. Because, well, they were here for the Australian Open and they can that, of course. And I don't think they've raced outside of Europe.
So we've got Tuscany, Russia,
Eastern Europe.
then, back to Germany, Portugal.
Yep.
They will be in the United States.
Oh, are they going to do that in the United States? I think they'll can in that race. Let's be honest.
Yeah, up in the air. And then I think back to Italy.
It's probably something we should talk about at some point. It's not technically sports, but it is a race. The presidential election.
I remember.
It'll be interesting to see how that. I don't think it's going to affect the American sports, but you never know. It overlaps very much with the NFL.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't affect sport.
College football very political at the moment, but again, shouldn't affect the sport there.
I just don't know why these people ain't standing up for the national anthem.
So NBA final. Well, to finish off the F1 talk before we move on, I think we said every race in Europe except the US one, which we don't think will go ahead.
Final race is in Mexico, but again,
will they go over to the Americanas?
I mean, last race of the season, you could probably chance that and have a couple of weeks off afterwards.
Yeah, everyone gets COVID, they'll have a couple of weeks off. Then we talk about the NBA finals. I think we're picking West, one of the LA teams to win.
Yeah, I'll say whoever wins the West, Clippers or Lakers. Congratulations to Miami Heat getting through. It's Game 7 tomorrow between Boston and Toronto. Wouldn't see either of those teams going through. I'd love to be surprised. I'll say Lakers take it out.
I was picking Clippers, but I think that'll be a really good series.
I hope the Clippers. But I think my head says Lakers.
Then we talked a bit about the cricket. Australian team not doing overly well against England at the moment, but England are the top team.
Good showing after that long off cricket. 2-1 in 2020 series. Who really cares? Shout out to Joss Butler. Can hit a ball. Looking forward to the ODIs and the boys coming back and singing it to India.
And then we talked a little bit about the upcoming fights, Israel and Paul Costa. And actually, I don't think we got a round table who we think is going to win that one.
I'm saying Stylebender.
No, I think I'm leaning towards Stylebender. I think Paul could give him problems. It would be interesting to see if they get Israel on the ground, and then I'll see what happens.
He's a physical specimen, and I'd hate to wrestle him, Paul Costa that is, but I think Stylebender standing up, giving him some of those leg kicks.
Everyone wants to fight Stylebender standing up, so if they stand up, I think he's got the lead there with his record of stand up fighting.
Indeed, but I wouldn't want to fuck with Costa.
Yeah. Then we talked a little bit about the boxing and the ongoing plans for title fights and lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finished off with with the tennis, with the US Open, and Djokovic killing ball persons or lines lady.
Ball lady. She's a cat. She's a cat. Meow.
Well, she didn't have reflexes like a cat.
No,
she's
reflexes.
A house cat.
No reflexes.
Well fed, well looked after, doesn't have to hunt for anything.
She's got a soft throat. We'll wrap this
I think that's it. Thank you, boys. Thank you, Peppy. Thank you, Monkey.
Appreciate it, boys.
Anytime.
We'll see you next week.
Fun. We'll do it all again.
A few beers, talk some garbage.
We'll do. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.